Li Taiyang wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the broken cooling unit. The metal box sat on the floor of the spacecraft, its internal parts scattered around him like puzzle pieces. He had been working on it for 3 hours, and his back ached from sitting in the cramped maintenance bay. "Is it fixed yet?" a voice called from the doorway. Taiyang looked up to see Han Minho, his friend and fellow engineer. Minho carried 2 cups of coffee, the steam rising in the cold air of the ship. "Almost," Taiyang said. He took one of the cups and drank deeply. "The problem is not what they think it is. The cooling unit is fine. The real issue is in the power distributor." Minho laughed. "Of course it is. Nothing is ever what it seems with these fancy diplomat ships." Taiyang smiled. He and Minho had grown up together on the lunar mining colony, fixing broken equipment with spare parts and creativity. When Earth joined the Galactic Imperium 5 years ago, they both volunteered to work on the new spacecraft that connected their world to the stars. It was better than digging rocks on the moon. "Why are we going to the Ashiri homeworld anyway?" Taiyang asked. Minho sat down on a cargo box. "You don't know? The Ashiri Queen is choosing a mate. Every species in the Imperium has to send candidates. It's some ancient tradition." Taiyang raised his eyebrows. "A mate? Like marriage?" "Something like that, but bigger. The Ashiri are one of the oldest species in the galaxy. When their queen chooses someone, it creates alliances that last for centuries. Earth is sending 10 people. The best of the best." Taiyang returned to his work, connecting wires and testing circuits. "Well, I'm just here to make sure the ship doesn't fall apart. Let the important people do the important things." The spacecraft carrying Earth's delegation arrived at the Ashiri homeworld 3 days later. Taiyang had never seen anything like it. The planet glowed with a soft blue light, and massive crystal towers rose from the surface like frozen waterfalls. Ships from dozens of different species orbited the world, each one stranger than the last. Captain Shin Nari gathered the crew in the main bay. She was a stern woman with short hair and sharp eyes. "Listen carefully," she said. "We are guests here. The Ashiri are powerful, and we need to make a good impression. The candidates will attend the opening ceremony tonight. Support crew will remain on the ship unless needed." Taiyang stood at the back of the group with Minho and the other engineers. He watched as the 10 candidates prepared themselves. Commander Kang Dae-hyun wore his military uniform covered in medals. Dr. Park Yuna checked her tablet, reviewing notes about Ashiri culture. Ambassador Choi Hyun-woo practiced his smile in a mirror. They all looked perfect, important, like they belonged in a palace. Taiyang looked down at his own jumpsuit, still stained with grease despite his best efforts to clean it. He belonged in engine rooms and maintenance bays, not in ceremonies with queens and ambassadors. The ceremony was scheduled for 8 o'clock. At 7:30, Taiyang received an emergency call. The translation device in the palace's east wing had malfunctioned. Without it, half the delegates would not be able to understand each other. Captain Nari sent Taiyang to fix it immediately. The Ashiri palace was enormous. Taiyang walked through hallways made of crystal that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Servants moved quietly past him, their skin shimmering with different colors. He had read that the Ashiri's skin changed color with their emotions, but seeing it in person was strange and beautiful. He found the translation device in a small room off the main corridor. The device looked ancient, covered in symbols he could not read, but technology was technology, no matter what species made it. Taiyang opened the access panel and began examining the circuits inside. "What are you doing?" The voice startled him. Taiyang turned and nearly dropped his tools. A woman stood in the doorway. She was tall. Taller than any human, with skin that looked like crystal filled with moving light. Her skin shifted between blue and silver as she watched him. She wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid metal, flowing and changing shape as she moved. Her eyes were large and completely silver, without pupils. Taiyang knew immediately who she was. Queen Valestra. He had seen her picture in the briefing materials. He stood up quickly, almost hitting his head on the low ceiling of the maintenance access. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing awkwardly. "I'm sorry. I'm just fixing the translation device. It broke down, and the ceremony starts soon, so they sent me to repair it." The Queen tilted her head, studying him. Her skin flickered to a shade of amber that Taiyang had not seen before. "You are from Earth?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm part of the support crew." "I fix things. What is your name?" "Li Taiyang, ma'am." She stepped closer, looking at the open device. "Can you repair it?" "Yes. The problem is simple. Someone installed the wrong type of power converter. I just need to bypass it and connect directly to the main power grid. It will take maybe 5 minutes." "The device has been malfunctioning for 3 days," the Queen said. "Our best technicians could not identify the problem." Taiyang shrugged. "Sometimes the best technicians think too much. They look for complicated problems, but most problems are simple. Things break because someone made a small mistake, not because the universe is mysterious." The Queen's skin turned a warm gold color. She made a sound that might have been a laugh. "That is an interesting philosophy." "It's not philosophy," Taiyang said, returning to his work. "It's just practical. I grew up on a lunar mining colony. Everything breaks there. If we waited for experts to fix everything, we would all be dead. So we learned to fix things ourselves." He connected the final wire and closed the access panel. The translation device hummed to life, its display showing green lights. "There, all fixed." "Thank you, Li Taiyang, who fixes things." Taiyang gathered his tools. "You should get to your ceremony, ma'am. It starts soon." The Queen nodded slowly, her silver eyes still watching him. "Yes. The ceremony." She turned to leave, then paused. "Do you think the choosing ceremony is strange?" Taiyang considered the question. "I think every culture has its own traditions. On Earth, we have thousands of different ways to choose partners. Some are stranger than others. Who am I to judge what works for the Ashiri?" The Queen's skin turned that warm gold color again. "You are honest. That is rare." She left without another word, her robes flowing behind her like water. Taiyang returned to the ship, thinking nothing of the encounter. He had fixed the device, done his job, and met the Queen. It would be a good story to tell Minho later. He did not notice that in the palace, Queen Valestra stood before her advisors with her skin still glowing gold. He did not know that gold meant she had found something unexpected and valuable. He did not know that she had asked her servants to find out everything about the human engineer who thought problems were simple. The ceremony began at 8 o'clock. Taiyang watched on a screen in the ship's common room as delegates from 47 species gathered in the Great Hall. Warriors in armor, scholars in robes, princes and diplomats and champions. All of them competing for the attention of the Ashiri Queen. Minho sat beside him, eating noodles from a container. "Look at them all, like peacocks showing their feathers." Taiyang nodded. "I hope our people do well." On the screen, Queen Valestra addressed the gathered crowd. Her voice was clear and strong, translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. She explained the trials that would test the candidates. She spoke of honor and strength and wisdom. And then, just for a moment, her silver eyes seemed to look directly at the camera, directly at Taiyang. He shivered, though he did not know why. The first trial began 3 days after the opening ceremony. Taiyang watched from the ship as Commander Kang De-hyun stepped into the combat arena. The Ashiri had built a massive stadium that could hold 100,000 spectators. Beings from across the galaxy filled the seats, their voices creating a sound like ocean waves. De-hyun faced a warrior from the Korthan Empire. The Korthan stood 8 feet tall with 4 arms, each one holding a different weapon. His skin was thick like armor. and his eyes burned red with battle focus. "This is not going to go well," Minho muttered. But Daehyun surprised everyone. He was fast, faster than the larger warrior expected. He dodged the first attack, then the second. He used the Korthan's size against him, making the warrior chase him around the arena until exhaustion slowed those 4 powerful arms. Then Daehyun struck, landing precise hits that earned him points. He did not win, but he survived longer than most, and that was enough to advance to the second round. Dr. Park Yuna competed in the intellectual trials. She answered questions about galactic history, solved mathematical puzzles, and debated philosophy with scholars from species that had been studying the stars for thousands of years. She was smart, very smart, and she made Earth proud. Ambassador Choi Hyunwoo navigated the cultural trials with smooth words and careful diplomacy. He knew exactly what to say and when to say it. Taeyang continued his work on the ship. He fixed a broken waste recycler, repaired a cracked view screen, and recalibrated the navigation computer. Simple problems with simple solutions. But he kept having strange encounters. On the 5th day, he was sent to repair the Queen's personal transport vehicle. It had broken down in the palace gardens, and the Ashiri technicians could not identify the problem. Taeyang found the vehicle sitting under a tree with silver leaves. The Queen stood nearby, speaking with her advisors. When she saw him, she dismissed the advisors. They left, but not without casting curious glances at the human engineer. "The transport will not start," the Queen said. Taeyang examined the vehicle. It was beautiful, made of the same crystal material as the palace buildings, but under the beautiful exterior, it was just a machine. He opened the engine compartment and immediately saw the problem. "A bird built a nest in your air intake," he said. He carefully removed the nest, making sure not to harm the small blue eggs inside. He placed the nest in a nearby bush. The engine was overheating because it could not get enough air. The Queen watched him relocate the nest with care. Her skin turned a soft pink color. "You did not destroy the nest. The eggs are still good. The bird will come back for them. No reason to destroy a home just because it was built in the wrong place." Most would not care about bird eggs. Taeyang shrugged. Most people never had to survive on a lunar colony. We learned to take care of things because resources are limited. Waste is stupid. He started the transport. It hummed smoothly, the crystal body glowing with power. "It is fixed," the Queen said. It was not a question. "Yes, ma'am." "You keep calling me ma'am." "My name is Valestra." Taeyang felt uncomfortable. "I know, but you are a queen. It seems rude to use your name. I give you permission." "Then thank you, Valestra." Her skin flickered gold again, that same warm color from before. 2 days later, Taeyang was working in a maintenance shaft beneath the palace when he heard voices. Someone was crying. He followed the sound and found 3 Ashiri servants huddled in a corner. They looked young, and their skin flickered with gray colors that meant distress. "What is wrong?" Taeyang asked. The servants jumped, startled. One of them spoke in broken universal language. "Food processors broken. We responsible for guest meals. If meals not ready, we punished." Taeyang looked at the broken food processor. It was a complex machine that could create any type of meal from base nutrients. But it had shut down completely. "When do you need it working?" 1 hour. Important guests arriving." Taeyang knew he could not fix the processor in 1 hour. The parts were too complicated, and he did not have the right tools, but he could solve the problem differently. "Come with me," he said. He led the servants back to the Earth ship. In the galley, he showed them how to make simple human food. Rice, vegetables, protein paste formed into edible shapes. Nothing fancy, but it was food, and it was ready in 30 minutes. The servants carried the food back to the palace, their skin turning happy shades of blue and green. Taeyang returned to fix the food processor properly. He was still working on it when Queen Valestra appeared in the maintenance shaft. She had to bend down to fit in the low space. "You helped my servants," she said. "The processor was broken. They needed food. I gave them food. Simple problem, simple solution." "You gave them your ship's rations." "We have plenty. They had none. Math is easy." Valestra sat down beside him in the cramped shaft. Her robes somehow stayed clean despite the dust and grease everywhere. "Why are you always alone, Li Taiyang?" The question surprised him. "I am not alone. Minho is my friend. The crew are good people. But you do not seek the company of others. You work by yourself, even now, fixing a machine in a dark shaft where no one can see you." Taeyang thought about it. "I grew up in the mines. My parents died when I was young. Mining accident. I was raised by the colony. Everyone was too busy to pay much attention to one kid, so I learned to be useful. If I could fix things, people needed me. If people needed me, I had purpose." "You equate usefulness with worth. Does not everyone?" "No," Valestra said softly. Her skin turned a deep blue that Taiyang had not seen before. "Most beings seek worth through power, or status, or beauty. You are the first I have met who seeks worth through service." Before Taiyang could respond, an announcement echoed through the palace. The third trial was complete. The list of remaining candidates would be announced in 1 hour. Valestra stood, graceful even in the cramped space. "I must go. But Li Taiyang, I find our conversations interesting. I fix things. That is all I do. Perhaps that is enough." She left, and Taeyang returned to his work, confused by the conversation, but too focused on repairing the food processor to think about it deeply. 1 hour later, the announcements began. Captain Shin Nari called all the Earth crew to the common room to watch. 40 candidates remained from the original 200. Commander Dae-hyun had made the cut. So had Dr. Park Yuna. Ambassador Hyun-woo had been eliminated in the cultural trials, and he sat in the corner looking disappointed. The list of names scrolled across the screen in dozens of languages. Warriors, scholars, princes, diplomats. The best of the best from every species. And then Queen Valestra appeared on the screen. Her skin was a brilliant gold color that made even the other Ashiri advisors step back in surprise. "I invoke my right as queen," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I add one more candidate to the trials." The crowd in the stadium fell silent. This had never happened before. "Li Taeyang of Earth, come to the palace." On the ship, every head turned to stare at Taeyang. His mouth hung open. Minho's noodles fell from his chopsticks. "What?" Taeyang said. "What? No, there is a mistake." But Captain Nari was already pulling him to his feet. "Move! The queen does not make mistakes. Get to the palace, now!" Taeyang stumbled toward the exit, his mind spinning. Behind him, he could hear the crew erupting into excited conversation. On the screen, the galactic audience had also erupted, but their sounds were not excitement. They were shock, confusion, and from some species, anger. An engineer, a support crew member, a nobody from Earth. The trials had just become very interesting. Taeyang stood in the candidate preparation room and felt completely out of place. Around him, warriors checked their weapons. Scholars reviewed their notes. Diplomats practiced speeches. They all wore ceremonial clothing that marked them as important people from important families. Taeyang wore his cleanest jumpsuit. It was still a jumpsuit. A Korthan warrior named Krothar looked at him and laughed. "The queen has made a joke. An engineer, in the trials, you will be eliminated in minutes." Taeyang said nothing. He did not disagree. An Ashiri servant approached him with a bundle of cloth. "The queen requests that you wear this." Taeyang unfolded the cloth. It was a simple robe, similar to what the Ashiri wore, but sized for a human. It was comfortable and practical. He changed quickly, grateful to be wearing something that did not have grease stains. The fourth trial was political acumen. Candidates sat in a council chamber and were given hypothetical situations. How would you respond to a trade dispute? What would you do if two ally species went to war? How do you balance competing interests? One by one, the candidates answered. They quoted treaties and laws. They spoke of leverage and advantage. They demonstrated knowledge of complex galactic politics. Then it was Tai Yang's turn. The Ashiri elder who ran the trial looked at him with skepticism. Earth is a junior member of the Imperium. A mining ship from the Valorum Collective has violated your territory. They claim it was an accident, but they have taken resources worth millions. The Imperium Council is divided. Some say ignore it to avoid conflict. Others say demand compensation. What do you do? Taeyang thought about it. He thought about the lunar colony, about sharing rations with people who had nothing, about fixing things because it needed to be done. I would talk to the miners, he said. The elder blinked. Talk to them? Yes. Miners are practical people. They do not violate territory for fun. If they took resources, they needed them. Maybe their ship was damaged. Maybe they ran out of fuel. Maybe someone made an honest mistake. I would find out why they did it. Then I would work with them to solve the real problem. Maybe we help them repair their ship, and they share some of the resources they took. Everyone wins. And if they refuse? If they were stealing deliberately? Then you know they cannot be trusted, and you act accordingly. But you try talking first. War is expensive. Cooperation is cheap. Several candidates snorted with laughter. The Drazen prince shook his head. Naive, he muttered. But Queen Valestra, watching from her throne, had skin that glowed soft gold. The trial continued. More complex scenarios. Taeyang answered each one the same way. Talk first. Find the real problem. Solve it together. He had no knowledge of treaties or laws. He just thought about what would work. At the end of the trial, 3 candidates were eliminated. Taeyang was not one of them. Krothar, the Korthan warrior, threw his weapon across the room in frustration. 2 days passed. Taeyang spent them in a guest room in the palace, feeling trapped. He missed his tools. He missed having something useful to do. Servants brought him food and offered entertainment, but he felt restless. On the 3rd day, they announced the final trial, the Chamber of Essence. Taeyang stood with the remaining candidates outside a massive door carved with symbols. An Ashiri priest explained the trial in a voice that echoed off the crystal walls. The Chamber of Essence is our most ancient technology. It looks into the heart of a being and reveals their true nature. You cannot lie to it. You cannot hide from it. It will show us who you really are and what you truly want. One by one, candidates entered the chamber. When Krothar emerged, he looked shaken. The screens in the observation room had shown his essence. He wanted war. He wanted to make the Ashiri Empire his weapon to conquer other species. He wanted power and blood. He was eliminated immediately. The Valorum Collective representative entered next. The chamber revealed that the collective wanted to absorb Ashiri genetic material. They saw the queen not as a partner, but as a resource to improve their hive mind. Eliminated. The Drazen prince wanted political dominance. He wanted to control the Ashiri through marriage, to make them a puppet state. Eliminated. Commander Daehyun from Earth entered the chamber. Taeyang watched the screen nervously. The chamber showed Daehyun's essence. He was brave and strong, but he wanted glory. He wanted recognition. He wanted people to remember his name. The queen was a path to legendary status. Daehyun was not eliminated, but his essence disappointed many. Dr. Park Yuna's essence revealed her desire for knowledge. She wanted access to Ashiri biological secrets. She wanted to advance human science. It was not selfish, but it was calculating. Finally, only Taeyang remained. He stood before the chamber door, his heart beating fast. He had no idea what the chamber would show. He had never thought deeply about what he wanted. He just lived day by day, fixing things, being useful. "Enter," the priest said. Taeyang walked through the door. The chamber was empty except for a platform in the center. The walls glowed with soft light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Taeyang stepped onto the platform. The light grew brighter. He felt something strange, like gentle fingers touching his thoughts. It did not hurt, but it was invasive and uncomfortable. He wanted to step away, but he forced himself to stand still. Images appeared in the air around him. Not images he created, but images pulled from his mind. The lunar colony, small and dark and cold. A young Taeyang sitting alone in a maintenance bay, learning to fix air filters because if the filters failed, people died. His parents. Smiling in an old photograph. The only picture he had of them. Minho, sharing rations when food was scarce. The queen, her gold skin. The way she listened when he talked. The broken machines. Dozens, hundreds of them. Each one fixed. Each one made useful again, and underneath it all, a feeling. A simple, clear feeling. Loneliness. Not the desperate loneliness of someone who hates being alone, but the quiet loneliness of someone who has learned to accept it. Someone who never expected to be chosen for anything except fixing machines. And the desire, not for power, not for glory, not for knowledge or status or wealth, just the desire to be useful, to fix things, to make things work. And maybe, somewhere deep down, the small hope that someone might value him for more than just the things he could repair. The chamber showed all of it. No secrets, no hidden agendas, no schemes or plans. Just a man who fixed things and tried to be kind because that was what made sense. The light faded. Taeyang opened his eyes. He had not realized he had closed them. He walked out of the chamber on shaky legs. The observation room was completely silent. Everyone stared at the screens that had shown his essence. Even the priest looked surprised. Queen Valestra stood from her throne. Her skin was the brightest gold Taeyang had ever seen. It was so bright it hurt to look at. She walked down the steps toward him. Every eye in the room followed her. She stopped in front of Taeyang and looked into his eyes with her silver gaze. "Li Taeyang," she said, her voice formal and clear. "The Chamber of Essence has revealed your truth. You are uncomplicated. You are honest. You seek no power over others. You measure worth through service and kindness. You have endured loneliness and hardship, yet you remain hopeful. You solve problems without ego. You help others without expectation of reward." She paused. The room held its breath. "These are the qualities I seek in a partner. Not strength of arms, not brilliance of mind, not skill in manipulation, but strength of character, simplicity of purpose, honesty of heart." She reached out and took his hand. Her crystalline skin was warm against his. "I choose you." The room exploded, shouts of surprise, anger, confusion. The Korthan delegates roared in fury. The Drazen representatives stormed out. Several species ambassadors demanded to speak with the Ashiri Council, but Taeyang only heard ringing in his ears. He stared at Valestra, unable to process what had just happened. "What?" he whispered. She smiled. It was the first time he had seen her smile. "I choose you, Li Taeyang, who fixes things, if you will have me. I am nobody. I am just an engineer. You are exactly what the Ashiri Empire needs, what I need. Someone who sees problems as solvable. Someone who helps because it is right, not because it is advantageous. Someone honest." Taeyang's mind spun. This could not be real. Queens did not choose engineers. Important people did not choose nobody mechanics from lunar colonies. But Valestra's hand was warm in his. Her golden skin glowed with certainty. Her silver eyes held no doubt. Taeyang swallowed. "I do not know how to be a prince or a king or whatever you need. I do not need a prince or a king. I need a partner." Can you be that? He thought about it. Really thought about it. Could he stand beside a queen? Could he live in a palace? Could he be more than just the person who fixed things? He looked at Valestra's hopeful expression. He thought about their conversations in maintenance shafts and gardens. He remembered how she listened to him, really listened, like his words mattered. Maybe he could try. Yes, he said quietly. I can try. Her smile grew wider. Her skin turned a color like sunrise, gold and pink and orange all mixed together. Outside, the galaxy was already reacting to the news. But inside the chamber, Taeyang and Valestra stood together, hands clasped, while the universe tried to make sense of an impossible choice. The announcement went out across the galaxy within hours. Queen Valestra of the Ashiri Empire had chosen her mate, Li Taeyang, human, engineer, nobody. The reactions came fast. The Korthan Empire issued a formal statement calling the choice an insult to all warrior species. Their ambassador declared that if the Ashiri valued weakness over strength, they were no longer worthy of respect. The Drazen hegemony recalled all their diplomats from Ashiri space. Their prince gave a speech saying that the ancient empire had fallen far if they chose servants over leaders. 3 smaller species lodged formal complaints with the Imperium Council. They claimed Earth had somehow cheated, that humans had used unknown technology or trickery to influence the Queen's decision. On Earth, the government panicked. Emergency meetings were called. What did this mean for Earth's position in the Imperium? Would other species punish them? Should they recall their delegation? Should they apologize? Taeyang watched the news reports in his new quarters, his stomach tight with anxiety. These were not simple problems. These were not broken machines he could fix with tools and logic. Valestra found him sitting on the floor, his head in his hands. I should withdraw, he said. This is causing too many problems. She sat beside him. Her skin was calm blue, peaceful despite the chaos outside. Do you want to withdraw? I want to stop causing trouble. That is not the same thing. Taeyang looked at her. Why did you choose me? Really? There were so many better candidates. Valestra was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and walked to the window. Outside, the crystal towers of the Ashiri homeworld glowed in the setting sun. The Ashiri Empire has existed for 12,000 years, she said. We have been powerful for so long that we have forgotten how to change. Our technology is ancient. Our traditions are rigid. Our thinking is set in stone like these towers. She turned back to him. For the last 500 years, I have watched other species innovate and grow while we stagnate. We win battles because we are strong, but we do not win them cleverly. We solve problems because we have resources, but we do not solve them efficiently. We are perfect at doing things the way we have always done them. But the galaxy is changing. And you think I can help with that? Taeyang asked. I am one person. I fix machines. You fix machines by thinking differently. You solve problems by ignoring tradition and finding what actually works. When everyone else saw a broken food processor, you saw hungry servants and found another solution. When everyone else would demand compensation from the miners, you would talk to them first. You adapt. You improvise. You survive. She knelt down so they were eye level. The Ashiri need to learn these things. I need to learn these things. The universe does not care about our ancient glory. It only cares about who can survive what comes next. What is coming next? I do not know. That is the problem. But I know the old ways will not be enough. A servant interrupted them. The Ashiri Council had demanded an emergency meeting. They wanted to discuss the choice. Some council members were supportive. Others were furious. The council chamber was a massive room with seats arranged in a circle. 12 elder Ashiri sat on thrones of crystal, their skin flickering with different colors that showed their emotions. Valestra and Taeyang stood in the center. Elder Thexian spoke first. He was ancient, even by Ashiri standards, and his skin was pale gray. My queen, the galaxy is in uproar. 5 species have threatened to leave the Imperium. The Korthan Empire speaks of war. This human, he is not worthy of you. The Chamber of Essence says otherwise, Valestra replied calmly. The Chamber shows truth, but truth is not the same as wisdom. Yes, he is honest. Yes, he is kind. But kindness does not win wars. Honesty does not negotiate treaties. You have chosen sentiment over strategy. Another elder, her skin bright orange with anger, stood up. We appear weak. For 12,000 years, the Ashiri have been respected, feared. Now we will be laughed at. The queen who chose a mechanic. Taiyang felt his face burn with shame. They were not wrong. He was a mechanic. What did he know about ruling empires? But Valestra's skin turned sharp silver, the color of determination. You speak of appearing weak. Let me tell you what real weakness is. Weakness is being unable to change. Weakness is repeating the same patterns while the universe moves on. Weakness is valuing appearance over substance. She gestured to Taeyang. This human survived on a harsh moon with limited resources. His people were nearly extinct multiple times in their history. Wars, plagues, environmental collapse. Yet they endured. They adapted. They found ways to survive when stronger species would have died. That is strength. That is the strength of desperation, Thexian said. We are not desperate. Not yet. But we will be. New threats are emerging beyond Imperium space. Technologies we do not understand. Species we have never encountered. When those threats arrive, our ancient weapons and rigid traditions may not be enough. We will need to adapt, to think differently, to solve problems in new ways. The council argued for hours. Taiyang said nothing. What could he say? He was the subject of the debate, not a participant. Finally, Valestra raised her hand for silence. I have made my choice. The ceremony will proceed in 7 days. Any species that wishes to leave the Imperium may do so. Any species that wishes to threaten us may try. But the Ashiri do not bow to pressure. We do not change our decisions because others disapprove. The council had no choice but to accept. Valestra was the queen. Her word was law. They left the chamber together. In the hallway, Taiyang stopped her. You are risking everything for me. Your alliances, your empire's reputation, maybe your safety. Why? Valestra touched his face gently. Her crystalline fingers were warm. Because I believe in what you represent. Because I am tired of choosing safety over growth. And because when I talk to you, I do not feel like a queen with a burden. I feel like a person having a conversation. Do you know how rare that is? Before Taiyang could respond, alarms blared throughout the palace. Red lights flashed. Servants ran through the hallways in panic. A guard rushed up to them, his skin flickering with urgent purple. My queen! Korthan battle fleet detected approaching the homeworld. 73 warships. They have not responded to hails. Valestra's skin turned ice blue, the color of focused calm. How long until they arrive? 4 hours. She turned to Taiyang. It seems the Korthan have chosen their response. In the command center, Ashiri military leaders gathered around tactical displays. The Korthan fleet was massive, bristling with weapons. They had positioned themselves to blockade the planet. No ships could leave. No supplies could arrive. General Velroth, the Ashiri military commander, addressed the queen. We can fight them. Our defense fleet is strong, but it will be costly. Many will die. What do they want? Valestra asked. They are broadcasting a demand. You must nullify the choosing ceremony. Select someone else, someone they deem worthy. If you refuse, they will begin bombardment. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at Valestra. She stood perfectly still, her skin cycling through colors: blue, silver, gold, red. Then she turned to Taiyang. They want you gone. What do you think we should do? Taiyang's heart pounded. 73 warships. People would die because the queen chose him. The solution was obvious. He should withdraw. Let Valestra choose someone else. Save lives. But he looked at her face, at the trust in her silver eyes, at the way she asked him, really asked him, what he thought. She had chosen him not despite his ordinariness, but because of it, because he thought differently, because he solved problems in unusual ways. War was not his area, but problems were problems. "Can I see the tactical display?" he asked. General Velroth looked skeptical, but gestured to the screens. Taiyang studied them. The Korthan fleet, the Ashiri defenses, the planet's position. He thought about the lunar colony, about fighting over limited resources, about miners who understood practical realities better than politicians. "Do not fight them," he said. The room erupted. "What? Surrender? Impossible!" "Not surrender," Taiyang said. "Talk to them, but not to their leaders, to their warriors, ship to ship." Valestra tilted her head. "Explain." "Warriors respect strength, but they also respect honesty. The Korthan think we are weak because you chose me. So prove you are not weak. Challenge them. Ship-to-ship combat, small scale. If we win, they honor your choice. If they win, I withdraw." "They will never agree," General Velroth said. "They will if you make it about honor instead of politics," Taiyang said. "Warriors understand honor. They understand tests of strength. Politics makes them angry, but a challenge, a test, that is their language." Valestra's skin turned thoughtful purple. "It is risky. Everything is risky right now." She smiled. "You are right about that." She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to the Korthan fleet. All ships. Let me speak to their warriors directly." The officer looked at General Velroth. The general nodded reluctantly. Valestra's image appeared on every screen in the Korthan fleet. Her skin glowed strong silver. "Korthan warriors," she said, her voice clear and powerful. "You believe I have chosen weakness. You believe the Ashiri have grown soft. I say you are wrong, but words mean nothing. So I offer you a challenge. Send your best warriors. We will send ours. Ship-to-ship combat. Clean, honorable. If you win, I will reconsider my choice. If we win, you will respect it. Do you dare accept?" For a long moment, there was silence. Then, from the Korthan flagship, a response came. General Crothar himself, the same warrior who had competed in the trials. "We accept." The challenge was set for dawn. 3 Korthan fighters against 3 Ashiri fighters. Ship-to-ship combat in the orbit above the homeworld. The entire galaxy would watch. In the Ashiri military hangar, pilots prepared their ships. General Velroth selected the 3 best pilots in the fleet. They were skilled, experienced, and confident. They had trained for decades. But Taiyang stood in the hangar with a worried expression. He watched the Ashiri pilots check their weapons, review their tactics, and prepare for traditional combat. Valestra stood beside him. "You have concerns. The Korthan have been fighting wars for centuries. The Ashiri have not faced real combat in 200 years. Your pilots are good, but the Korthan live for battle. What would you do differently?" Taiyang walked to one of the fighters. He ran his hand along its hull. It was beautiful, sleek, built for speed and power. Ashiri ships are designed for one-on-one combat, elegant duels. But the Korthan do not fight elegantly. They fight to win. So we will lose? Not if we change how we think about the fight. He turned to face her. On the lunar colony, we fought over resources all the time. Different mining companies, different factions. We never won by being stronger. We won by being smarter, by using terrain, by working together, by making the enemy fight our fight, not theirs. Valestra's skin flickered with interest. You want to command the battle? No. I know nothing about commanding battles, but I know about problems, and this is just a problem. General Velroth overheard and walked over, his skin dark with disapproval. You are an engineer, not a tactician. Exactly. I am an engineer. I solve problems with what I have, not with what I wish I had. And what do you have? Tae-Yang looked around the hangar, at the ships, at the equipment, at the worried faces of the crew. I have mining drones from our Earth ship. I have mining charges that we use to break asteroids. I have sensor equipment designed to find metal in rock. I have pilots who are better at precision flying than combat. And I have friends who are very good at improvising. He turned back to the general. Let me try something. If it does not work, you can fight your way, but give me a chance. Valestra put her hand on the general's shoulder. Let him try. The general did not look happy, but he nodded. Tae-Yang immediately called Minho and the other Earth engineers. They gathered in the hangar, confused but ready to help. Remember when we cleared that asteroid field near Jupiter? Tae-Yang asked Minho. The one with the unstable fragments? Minho's eyes widened. You want to create a debris field? Yes, but controlled, precise. They worked through the night. Earth mining drones were loaded with small explosives. Sensor packages were modified to track fast-moving targets. Communication systems were linked so ships could share data instantly. Captain Shin Nari joined them, bringing tactical knowledge from Earth's own conflicts. The Korthan will expect direct combat, ship versus ship. They are better at that than anyone, but if you change the battlefield, they have to fight on our terms, Tae-Yang finished. By dawn, everything was ready. The 3 Ashiri fighters launched from the planet. The 3 Korthan fighters approached from the blockade fleet. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched on their screens. Tae-Yang sat in the command center, connected to all 3 Ashiri fighters through comm systems. Valestra stood beside him, her skin cycling through anxious colors. The Korthan ships were massive and heavily armed. The Ashiri ships looked like toys beside them. General Crothar's voice boomed over the open channel. Begin! The Korthan ships accelerated immediately, weapons charging. They expected the Ashiri ships to meet them head-on. Instead, the Ashiri ships scattered in 3 different directions. What are they doing? Someone in the command center asked. They are running. No, Tae-Yang said calmly. They are deploying the drones. Behind each Ashiri fighter, dozens of small mining drones activated. They spread out in a pattern, each one carrying precisely placed explosive charges. Within minutes, they had created a field of floating hazards between the Ashiri ships and the Korthan attackers. The Korthan ships slowed. Crothar's voice sounded confused. What is this? Mines? Not mines, Tae-Yang said into the comm. Obstacles. He gave the signal. The drones began moving in coordinated patterns, their positions constantly shifting. The Korthan ships tried to navigate through them, but every time they approached, the drones would activate their charges, creating bursts of debris and energy that damaged sensors and disrupted targeting. It was not damage enough to destroy a ship, but it was chaos. Controlled chaos. Ashiri fighters, pattern Delta, Tae-Yang said. The 3 Ashiri ships began working together, something the Korthan did not expect. While the Korthan ships were focused on navigating the drone field, the Ashiri fighters used their superior maneuverability to strike from different angles. Quick hits, precise shots at weapon systems and engines, then retreat back into the safety of the debris field. The Korthan tried to adapt. They fired heavy weapons to clear the drones, but Tae-Yang had anticipated this. Each destroyed drone triggered a sensor beacon, giving the Ashiri fighters exact locations of Korthan ships through the debris. This is not honorable combat, Crothar roared. This is trickery. Tae-Yang opened a direct channel. Is honor measured by following expected patterns or by using all available resources to protect your people? On Earth, we learned that survival is more important than tradition. The battle continued. The Korthan ships were stronger, but they were fighting blind in a field of obstacles they could not predict. The Ashiri ships were weaker, but they knew exactly where everything was and worked as a coordinated unit. After 30 minutes, 2 Korthan ships had disabled engines. The third was still operational, but damaged. Tai Yang made a decision. Stop the attack. The Ashiri fighters pulled back. The drones deactivated. General Velroth looked shocked. Why stop? We are winning. Because we proved the point, Taeyang said. This was never about destruction. It was about respect. He opened the channel to Krothar again. General, you said the Ashiri were weak because we value unconventional thinking over traditional strength. But what you just experienced was human tactical thinking combined with Ashiri precision. Together. We did not win because we were stronger. We won because we adapted. We used every resource available. We thought differently. He paused. Queen Valestra chose me not because I am the best warrior or the smartest scholar. She chose me because I represent the kind of thinking the Ashiri need to survive in a changing galaxy. You just saw what happens when we combine our strengths. Imagine what the Ashiri Empire could become if we embraced change instead of fearing it. There was a long silence. Then Krothar's image appeared on the screen. His 4 arms were crossed, but his expression was thoughtful. You fight like a coward, he said. I fight like someone who wants everyone to survive, Taeyang replied, including my enemies. Krothar's face changed. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. Your ships are disabled, but intact. You could have destroyed them. Destroying them would prove nothing except that we can destroy. I wanted to prove we can think. Another pause. Then Krothar did something unexpected. He laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound. The human is clever. The Ashiri Queen is wise to choose clever over conventional. The Korthan Empire withdraws our challenge. We will honor the choosing. Relief swept through the command center. Valestra's skin turned brilliant gold, but Krothar was not finished. However, we request something in return. What? Valestra asked. Send us teachers, humans who think like this one. Our warriors are strong, but strength means nothing if we cannot adapt to new threats. We would learn from you. Taeyang blinked in surprise. The Korthan wanted to learn from humans? Valestra smiled. We will send teachers, and perhaps you can teach us about honor and discipline. Exchange makes us both stronger. Over the following days, other species began to reconsider their positions. The Valorum Collective sent ambassadors to discuss cooperative projects. The Drazen hegemony, while still disapproving, reopened diplomatic channels. The choosing ceremony proceeded as planned. It was smaller than traditional ceremonies, but it felt more genuine. Taeyang wore robes that made him uncomfortable. But Valestra held his hand throughout, and that helped. When the priest asked if he would stand beside the queen as partner and equal, Taeyang almost laughed. Equal? Him? But he looked at Valestra's face, at the hope and certainty there, and he remembered what she said about needing a partner, not a prince. I will, he said. The priest bound their hands with a crystal cord. Valestra's skin turned every color of the rainbow, a display of pure joy. That evening, they stood together in the palace workshop. Taeyang had insisted on having a workshop. If he was going to live in a palace, he needed a place to fix things. Valestra watched him repair an ancient Ashiri artifact that had been broken for centuries. He worked carefully, his hands steady and sure. What are you thinking? She asked. I am thinking that I have no idea what I am doing, he said honestly. I do not know how to be whatever I am supposed to be now. What do you think you are supposed to be? I do not know. A prince? A leader? A symbol? Valestra sat beside him. You are supposed to be you, the person who fixes things, the person who thinks differently, the person who helps because it is right. That is all I need. That is all the Ashiri need. And when I make mistakes, when I fail, then we will fix it together. Is that not what partners do? Taiyang set down his tools and looked at her. Really looked at her. This being who could have chosen anyone in the galaxy and chose him. Not despite his ordinariness, but because of it. Yes, he said. That is what partners do. She took his hand, her crystalline skin warm against his. The universe is vast and full of problems, Li Taiyang. Things break. Situations become complicated. Conflicts arise. But that is not a burden. It is an opportunity, he finished, remembering his own words. Exactly. They sat together in comfortable silence, surrounded by tools and broken things waiting to be fixed. Outside, the galaxy was already changing. Species that had been isolated for millennia were talking to each other. Old enemies were becoming cautious allies. New ideas were spreading, all because a queen chose an engineer, all because someone thought differently. Minho visited the next day, bringing news from Earth. The government had stopped panicking. In fact, they were excited. Other species were asking about human problem-solving methods, about adaptation techniques, about unconventional thinking. Earth was no longer just a junior member of the Imperium. They were becoming teachers, valuable, respected. You did good, Minho said, clapping Taiyang on the shoulder. Even if you do wear fancy robes now. Taiyang laughed. I still have my jumpsuit. I am not that different. Yes, you are. You are the guy who married a queen and changed the galaxy. That is pretty different. I just fixed problems. Exactly. That is what makes you different. Weeks later, Taiyang stood with Valestra on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. Ships from dozens of species filled the sky, coming and going in peaceful trade and exchange. What do you see when you look at all this? Valestra asked. Taiyang thought about it. I see problems waiting to happen, ships that will break down, systems that will malfunction, conflicts that will arise. Misunderstandings, mistakes. Valestra's skin flickered with amusement. That sounds pessimistic. No, Taiyang said, smiling. It sounds like job security. There will always be something that needs fixing, something that needs a fresh perspective, something that benefits from thinking differently. He squeezed her hand. And now I have a partner to help me fix things, someone who trusts me to try, someone who values solutions over traditions. We will make mistakes, Valestra said. Yes, and we will fix them. Together. Together. They stood watching the ships dance across the sky, two unlikely partners facing an uncertain future. But uncertainty did not frighten them. After all, problems were just opportunities waiting to be solved. And if there was one thing humans understood, one thing Li Taiyang embodied, it was this. When the universe breaks something, you do not give up. You do not follow old patterns that no longer work. You adapt. You think differently. You find another way. You fix it. And sometimes, fixing one small thing can change an entire galaxy.